All right, people. We have still got a presentation from our brand refresh people, and then we have another item. However, we will come to that in due course. All right, over to you, Sandra and Trudy.
Good afternoon, Chair, councillors. Please take the report as read. This item provides an overview of the strategic brand thinking and proposed direction developed for the Waikato Public Transport Network. The work recognises complexity, multiple brands, and inconsistent experiences, and identifies clear opportunity to create a simpler, more unified and reassuring PT brand that supports ultimately more bums on the seats. To walk the committee through the work, we invite Jane Etheridge, Strategy Director, and Emma Vivian, Lead Business Partner from the agency undertaking the work, to outline context for the work, the opportunity identified, and how this thinking will inform future stages of the project.
I think you're on mute, sorry.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes, that's better. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. My name's Jane. It's really lovely to meet you all. What you're about to see is the result of many, many months of hard work from our end and the team in Waikato, and we will quickly show you the result of that work and where we are in the process. So as a little bit of background, we approached this project knowing that the Waikato Regional Council faced several sort of key business challenges with the public transport network. I'll talk about these in a little bit more detail, but the biggest issue here was the fragmentation across multiple services, which was really creating a sense of confusion. We're just having a bit of screen trouble.
Yeah, are you controlling the slideshow or? Here we go.
Is that working? Maybe we'll leave it like that. Perfect. When we looked at understanding the task or the key task here, we had these 4 key challenges. The first one was this fragmentation of the brand identity. As we'll show you in a little bit, if an outsider or someone who wasn't acutely familiar with public transport in the Waikato came across the transport system, it was resulting in a huge amount of confusion. The second one was to do with low public trust and patronage. So those that did use the transport system found that potentially, again, it was fragmented and there was this general sense of low trust here. We found that there was weak community connection in more ways than one. And finally, this resulted in an overarching complexity of the network. So we had 6 key objectives when we approached this project initially. When we approached this rebrand. The first one was really about building trust and recognition here. After a period that many people have been through of disruption, when we had COVID, driver strikes, reduced services, we really wanted to rebuild a sense of trust within the transport system. Naturally, we want to encourage greater use of public transport. But most importantly, we really want to unify these brands so that if you are in the Waikato, either as a resident or a visitor, you have one public transport system that you use, and it is incredibly easy to use. In creating this public transport system, we wanted to create a brand that really reflects the region's identity, something that people feel very proud of and something that represents them. We want to support the passenger experience roadmap and the great work that has been done there. And finally, and importantly, be adaptable. So this brand, it's absolutely paramount. It's crucial that this brand is adaptable for future and can represent what the region becomes in the future. So all that to say is that we really need to reframe how the public transport system is being perceived. Now, we had 4 key areas of research here, or research inputs. How we've approached this project initially is we had a briefing and a kick-off workshop, and we talked through all the supplied collateral, all the documentation, all the previous work that had been done. We then at Special undertook a huge amount of research. We interviewed 8 of the key stakeholders. We had 7 focus groups. 3 of them were internal with either the customer-facing team or councillors. And then importantly, we had 4 focus groups where we talked to users or non-users and residents of the Waikato. So these were 4 groups, either a frequent user, a lapsed user, an occasional user, or a non-user of the transport system. And then finally, we undertake what we call desk research, where is essentially we sit at our desks and look at all the available research here. And importantly, we like to look at other successful incredible brands from overseas, such as the Berlin public transport system, Transport for London, to see really what is working here and why it's working.
And then also just recently and importantly, we've undertaken some field research. And what this has done is verified some of the desk research that we've done and some of the interviews that we conducted. But we will also have unearthed a few new tasks that we need to tackle when we move into the branding and design of the new transport system.
And then we'll take you on to more of the strategic territories here. And as a brand strategist, we have a few key frameworks that we use to unpack the brand strategy here. And the most common one, or the most widely used, is what we call the 4 Cs, which is where we do an acute analysis of each of these areas. First of all, we look at the company to see what are the unique truths of the brand and what's holding us back. We then look at the customer to see, okay, what are users or non-users or people in the Waikato? What are their current attitudes? What are their behaviors? What are their motivations? We then step a little bit wider and look at the category. Now, the category here, in a generic sense, would usually be we look at competitors to see what they're doing. As we have no actual competitors, we looked at across New Zealand and across the world, what is going on with public transport systems? How are they communicating? How are they operating? How are they positioned? And what is working and what's not working? And then finally and importantly, we look at culture. So what important cultural currents, whether that's pop culture, whether that's any other sense of culture, what's having an impact today? What is important and meaningful to people? So then we can start to look at the first of those C's, the company. And we learnt here that the transport system in Waikato is performing well, or perhaps we should say it's performing fine, but it doesn't feel effortless or easy for those who use it. And importantly, there's not a perception that it is easy to use, which is stopping a lot of people from using it. So we know that regular users, our frequent users, are actually very pleased with the service. We have a 94.5 satisfaction rate, which is actually up from a few years ago. However, this satisfaction rate hasn't translated into a simple or an intuitive experience. So we found in the passenger experience document that passengers find the network complex, inconsistent, and difficult to navigate. And we know that these are all key barriers that even stop people from using it. So the issue is not just how well the system runs from an operational point of view, but actually how clearly it kind of communicates and how it presents itself and how confident it makes people use it. Then we have a little look at the current brand architecture. Now, for one transport system, for the Waikato public transport system, as you can see, there is a plethora of brands and names and identities. For buses alone, for one region, you have 6 different names and identities. We then have an array of other things. Some of these things we can't actually control with the rebrand, such as total mobility or B payments and things like this. But if you were a new person coming to use this system, or even a resident that wasn't acutely familiar, this is incredibly convoluted and confusing, and actually an easy win from our point of view if we were to draw those into one simple identity. So we know that from a company point of view, the network is performing well, it's performing fine, but it actually doesn't feel easy. It doesn't feel intuitive. So we need to create a very simple, a very clear and unified brand that not only functions well from an operational point of view, but is really, truly effortless to use. And it's that word effortless and that sense of fluidity and ease that we really want to embody and communicate with this brand. We then look at a company again. So we found that complexity and confusion are really stalling momentum here. So the system is working, as we know, but complexity is really slowing growth. Now, there are many hands in control of the system and the many elements of the system and many brands speaking for it. But actually, true usership from a patronage point of view, from a customer point of view, is actually getting caught in the gaps. From a customer point of view, we found that actually choice of movement is dictated by the need for fluidity. Now, this insight here was born from the focus groups, which were absolutely fascinating talking with people. We found that people that are frequent users of the transport system absolutely love it. However, everyone else, whether that's an occasional user, a lapsed user, or a non-user, find that it's incredibly confusing and actually a lot of mental load with it. And then we wanted to dig a little bit deeper. We wanted to compare frequent bus users with those who use their car. And we actually found that they are using either one of these systems for exactly the same reasons, because it's easy, because it's the least mental load. The frequent users would say things to us like, I love the bus. It means I can relax. I don't have to think about it. It's easy. It gets me there. It's just so nice to enjoy life, and it takes away that mental load. But that was exactly what people who took their car said. So we really found that this choice of movement was dictated by this need for an ease of life, a sense of fluidity, a sense of effortless motion. From a category point of view, when we looked at all the other transport systems across the world, we found that actually transport systems aren't just about functionality, but the best transport brands are the foundation for a thriving place. They were really the foundations in what made a region successful and exciting and full of possibility. And they did it by making movement feel instinctive. Then from a cultural point of view, so this is when we dig a little bit deeper to see how people are feeling or what they're being influenced by. And we actually found that in the Waikato, the way of life has really faced a sense of disruption recently. So when we asked people in our focus groups and when we undertook a lot of research with customers and patrons, we found that the reason they love the Waikato is because of its sense of simplicity, its sense of space, and a sense of natural rhythm they have there. And this was very interesting because this was very common across the board, whether someone was born there, whether someone had immigrated from another country, whether someone had returned there. They all said things to us like, life is simple and easy here, or at least it used to be. We love it here. We have space. We can move around easily. However, this was contradicting with the past few years and with the way things were unfolding all across the country from an economic and a social point of view. So our key insight here is that actually the reason they love the Waikato, the reason they love life there, is actually facing a little bit of disruption at the moment. Then importantly, in all of our work and all of our strategy, we want to understand, again, from a cultural lens or from a Te Ao Māori lens, what is happening. And we found here that actually movement is seen as a limbing force. So movement carries Māori, which is the energy that sustains life and strengthens relationship between people and place. So we have this sense in Te Ao that it creates connection, purpose, and possibility. And we heard things like, perhaps if we can bring parts of the story into the brand, into the whakapapa of the brand, then they could start to see it in themselves. Or it's important to iwi and Māori, but they may not see themselves in it traditionally. We also saw from a customer point of view, bringing this sense of New Zealand culture into the brand was, again, very, very important. So that is our C's on a page, as you can see here. Now, after we've done this, we come up with what is called a strategic territory, which is generally the direction that the brand will face. And we can start to unpack this by looking at a brand impact idea. So we found that in a fragmented system, which we're currently in, and in a region that feels worried about the future, we need a beacon of hope and certainty. So our opportunity is actually to reimagine transport as the force that reconnects the Waikato. And we're talking about reconnection here socially, economically, and actually emotionally too. We know that we are inspired by the mighty Waikato River, so why don't we unite the whole region with a system that feels utterly effortless and empowers all its people to move confidently towards a prosperous future together. So all that in a sentence, actually, let's be the brand that shows people that they can do more when they use public transport, that life is richer and you can do more with life and with yourself when you use public transport. And then we start to build out what we called a brand manifesto. So this is like a bit of a hype reel, a build up to what this brand will sound and feel like. So our manifesto for this brand is, many years ago, a river was born. From a single puna or a spring, it gathered strength, cutting through rock, creating life and connecting communities, and actually building the backbone of a region. This river showed us that movement is power. It's the power to shape whenua, connect communities, and to build futures. Its changing currents remind us that power takes many forms, the gentle, the steady, and the strong. A small droplet of water can cut through stone. A strong current can power a nation. The Waikato Hour taught us something essential, and this is that movement is life. And today we carry that legacy forward because movement isn't just transport, it's transformation. And we are here to transform lives, to give people the confidence to move, to take the next step, choose the next direction, smile at a stranger and explore somewhere different, to spark participation, to fuel ambition, and to accelerate growth for tangata and taio. And every decision we make begins with one question. Will this create better movement for our people and for our place? We believe in movement because movement builds great futures, futures shaped by connection, care, and collective purpose. And we are here to help build one for all. We are Waikato Transport, and our movement powers potential, which gives us our strategic line here. Now, this is a phrase that will inform the direction of the brand, the visuals of the brand, but importantly, this sentence here is internal facing. So this won't necessarily be external to the customer or to users. It's very much for an internal point of view. But we've chosen these words to be very prescriptive in this language, and we've been very careful with why we've chosen this language. So when we talk about our movement here, we talk about the brand, but we also talk about infrastructure and behavior and experience and technology and growth all under one word. So our movement is very powerful and encompassing. Movement as well goes beyond transport. It includes cycling, accessibility, flow, and progress of the region. It naturally connects us to the Waikato River. It's very human-centric, and it actually has an emotional resonance here because movement is a behavior, not just that tangible system. It suggests freedom and energy and progress in life. Then when we talk about power or powers, this gives the brand momentum, strength, and direction. And we really think it needs that. We think this brand needs to be powerful and strong. And potential as well is a very important word that we wanted to use here because we think that potential can be realized once we have nailed the public transport system. That's individual potential, that is social potential, that is economic potential. This word potential speaks to unlocking opportunities for individuals and communities. It's very emotionally rich, it's hopeful, it's motivating. And it's also future facing. So it really encourages that long-term thinking and optimism. And you can see from a tangible point of view, every decision that is made around this brand, we are saying, will this create a sense of potential for the region or potential for people? We then look at it again from a cultural perspective, and we're really inspired by the Waikato Hour as a sense of living movement. And this is our visual metaphor here, because water or the Waikato River is not just water, but it's actually a living ancestor to Puna. It's a carrier of stories and leadership and connection. And so the Waikato Hour here becomes the lifeline of the system. It's really about symbolizing movement and connection and collective Maori. So that's exactly why we have used this metaphor here. From a visual point of view, you can see that actually our movement powers potential and the Waikato River really, really comes to life. We can talk about wai as the water. We can talk about whenua as the land, as power that empowers or discovery through the piko, these visual blends. It's really about these powerful surging currents that are exactly what we're trying to achieve with this brand. And then we get to the brand on the page, which is where we sort of briefly summarize everything we've spoken about and what we have decided upon. So if we were to surmise here what our opportunity is, it's to create a movement system that helps our people, communities, and region thrive by making the Waikato feel more confident, connected, and curious. Who is our audience? Who are we speaking to here? We're actually speaking to all people and all communities of the Waikato. Our positioning line is here that we exist to show people that they can do more when they use public transport. It's about a sense of abundance and freedom. From a Maori perspective, movement is a living force. It creates connection, purpose, and possibility, which leads us to our brand impact idea, our movement powers potential. And then we wanted to understand, okay, what would this mean for all of those people we spoke to? So for non-users right through to frequent users. For non-users, we know that movement is actually about opening doors you're not accessing yet. So we could translate this into comms or campaigns line that was something along the lines of, this could make your life easier if you gave it a try. It's all about encouraging it to give it a go. It's the same for lapsed users. We can say things like, we've improved, we're here, come back and see how much smoother we are now. For occasional users, we can say things like, we can help you do more often to encourage more frequent use. And then for those frequent users, we want them to understand that movement keeps powering their progress every day. So what you already rely on is helping you achieve even more. And then we test this a little bit further and we want to understand, okay, what does our movement powers potential mean from an internal point of view? So what would it mean for customer facing staff? How would they interpret this? Well, actually, movement powers potential because you, the customer facing staff, are the people who are keeping the Waikato moving. And what you do every day creates independence for people, it creates confidence for people, and it creates connection for others because you, as a customer facing staff member, are enabling access to work, to school, to services, and to community. From an internal point of view or internal staff, we believe that movement powers potential when you build a system that moves as one. So when the internal staff are looking at maps or looking at routes or looking at systems or making decisions, it's all about understanding that actually this is about connecting the region in smarter and stronger ways. And it actually gives you a reason to talk externally as well and say, we're sorry there's a disruption here, but this is all about the future potential of the region. From a councillor or a government point of view, movement powers potential by strengthening the region's prosperity. So it's all about communicating that together you can shape a transport system that is going to unlock economic, social, and environmental progress. So that is a very, very rapid take through of the work to date. As you can understand, that is condensed massively from where we started. We then also had a look at the brand architecture to see how we could condense it to be under one brand. And essentially what we're working with at the moment is to have one brand. At the moment, it would be Busset, as you see, with everything underneath it. But we would have one key brand that would be recognizable by absolutely everyone. Flex, we're not sure about that name yet, if we are going to change that. And Tahuya, again, we understand there's discussions going on, but this here is to really understand that this will all be consolidated into one key recognizable brand that will make it incredibly accessible and easy for everyone to use. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Jane and Heath and Emma. I appreciate the work that has gone into the thinking behind the presentation today. Thoughts, questions from around the table? Warren.
Thank you, guys. I'm struggling to see where you've got to at the end of it. So that last slide shows a name, Busset. We know we have different coloured buses and bits and pieces like that. You mentioned that our current branding is confusing. I think the words, what were the words? The words were the system is complex, inconsistent, and difficult to navigate. Now, I'm not quite sure how you've answered any of those problems. I'm not sure you really grasp why people use public transport. Generally, it's for the cost and the efficiency of it. Yeah, so I'm really look. I can see you selling a tropical island. I'm just really, and I'm sorry to be rude, but I'm really struggling here. I have no skills in marketing whatsoever. So you are the experts, but this presentation, I just don't really see where we've got to with rebranding our public transport. Sorry.
So maybe I can pick up aspects of that. This is not intended to give you the answer today. It is intended to share with you the work that has been done so that you can understand when we get to the next phases of this work and come back to you, that you will see the process that has been followed to establish the core elements of what a new brand will be, rather than trying to give you the answer today. And that's intentional. So,
but is rebranding not for the ideal long-term goal efficiencies and to improve efficiencies?
It is, yes. In a having all the buses looking the same perspective, as well as around making timetables easy to understand, and all of the online customer-facing aspects, as well as the vehicles themselves. Yes.
And that was one of the feedbacks we got from the PTOs, was that they felt that if the branding was the same on buses and potentially signage different to recognise what that bus approaching you was, then there's efficiencies in that. So yeah, sorry, I'm lost.
That's okay. I can jump in as well. So as part of the wider project, we are probably about I guess in the first installment about 40% through. I think we need to ensure that we understand the task ahead, building the strategy, understanding the customers, understanding the system as it works today, and also the operations. So that's building out our strategy, which we're sharing today. As Heath mentioned, we've been doing quite a lot of site visits. So how the wayfinding and how people are navigating the systems. And you've just mentioned around buses approaching look different to, the colour-coded chart that you've reviewed. So there is quite a systematic operational review of how the brand exists today and how it needs to evolve. And we're also looking at, now we're moving into the brand identity, how it's actually going to show up to live and breathe like the strategy that we've developed with that Te Ao Māori lens, how we can craft the identity but make sure it flexes between the different offerings that you've got as a transport system, and beyond the actual livery of the vehicles itself, how else can it live and breathe to make it a lot more visually exciting and engaging and accessible for everyone within the community and beyond, across advertising, partnerships, loads of different ways it can show up. So, and potentially for the future. So beyond what you're currently doing, what else can we do? Is there opportunities for advertising space that we can, from an economic perspective as well? So it's to come. Yeah, it's exciting.
Thank you, Emma, for adding to that. I've just got a couple more people. Noel, you're in line, but I'll come to Gary first.
Yeah, I was struggling with that actually too. Like Warren, I spent time with a guy that rides the trains and buses in Auckland, making sure that people are behaving. And he said that the main problem that's driving people off the trains is not what the trains are or the buses. It's the behaviour, it's the safety, it's the security. I really wonder whether a rebrand that sounds as nice as you made it sound, take my hat off to you for that, but I'm not convinced that is the crux of where we are, that we want to get people back on these buses. It's more making them safe and affordable and secure, that people want to be on them rather than trying to change the color or the brand or anything. I've seen that 100 times before, and I'm not convinced. Sorry.
Well, it's a good point. It's very hard to communicate in 20 minutes the extent of the research we have done, but there has been a huge amount. And probably the most relevant to your statement there was talking to people who take the bus, whether that's bus drivers or patrons themselves, of which we have done a huge amount. And a really big takeaway from that was that people who use the bus absolutely love it. And the contrast about the perception from people who use the bus in comparison to those who don't is black and white. So people who use the bus say, I've never had a bad experience. It's incredible. It's so pleasant. I absolutely love it. But as soon as they haven't used the bus, they hate it. And I had people saying to me, I'm a prison guard and I would feel safer working with murderers than I would taking the bus in Hamilton. And I said, that's really interesting. Have you ever taken the bus? No, I haven't, but I just imagine it would be like that. So the huge issue here is the perception, and it's actually encouraging people to try and use public transport, which is the biggest barrier. Now, we see at the moment the biggest barrier is this negative perception, but we can mediate that by making it a brand that is incredibly easy to use and approachable. So, for example, we spoke to people in wheelchairs or mothers with babies in prams who say, I just don't know how it works. I just don't know how the bus would stop. How do I get my wheelchair on? How do I get my baby on with the pram? And it's that little barrier there, that lack in communication, that is stopping them. Therefore, all the negative perceptions overload them. So the second we can make this an slightly aspirational, but a very clearly communicative and a friendly brand, we can get people to try it, because we know once they try it, they will use it. Another interesting insight was when we spoke to lapsed users of the bus. Not one of those lapsed users said they stopped using it because they had a bad experience. Every single one in that group stopped using it because they moved somewhere else where there wasn't actually a service anymore. So we know people will use it and they will love it, but it's just about getting people to use it.
Thanks, Jane. And Noel.
Thank you. Number of issues, and I'll just touch on what some of the guys have said. Warren, thank you for articulating your views. I concur, so I won't repeat them. Gary, we did work before we started today, and this is a continuation, so probably need to catch up. But all the buses in all the different colours, it means that the buses can't be interchanged, and it's a waste of time. I go to Sydney regularly to see my daughter. I know that if I get on the bus, it's got, I think it's 565, that's all I'm interested in. I don't care what's on the back or the side or anywhere on the bus. I want to see that number coming at me, and that's the one I get on. So to me, it's not about the greatest respect. What I just heard for the last few minutes was, it took me back to watching the old movies where you've got, you know, the, what do you call your companies? No, the, oh gosh, the companies that do the branding, you know, some of your companies, and you see them doing sales pitches and all that sort of stuff. And you've just reminded me of the movies. And so, you know, coming back to our reality is we want to see more bums on seats. So to me, I don't really care what the existing users, because they're the converts, they're already there. It's what we can do to get them on the bus. And, you know, I've been thinking about phrases and slogans, you know, like sort of just do it, you know, like bang, it comes to mind every time. So get on, get there. So those are the sort of things for me actually make a difference, you know, and it's very simplistic to say I've got the answer, and I haven't, but it's just an example I'm using. So to me, to get all the airy-fairy stuff, you know, what is it going to do? And do we really need something on the back of a bus that you've got to be behind or standing on the side of the road to see it go by? Is it really going to pull you in? Yeah, it's got to be that transformational for me to do anything for our buses. Otherwise, we're not spending money wisely. Thank you.
Thanks, Noel. Ben.
Yeah, first question I've got is for Phil. Do councillors ultimately get to decide whether this new name gets adopted or not?
Yes.
Thank you. I think the brand strategists have not read the Waikato well. It's a practical place. It's full of practical people doing practical things. And to try and tell me that people are feeling harder to feel connected emotionally and spiritually because of the fragmented transport system, and that this new one will be a beacon of hope and security doesn't sit well, particularly when the results show that we've gone from 87% favourability to 94.5%, and that the people who use the bus are really happy with it. The ones who don't use the bus, the lapsed user, doesn't use the bus because the routes don't reach my area. I mean, all we're talking about here is 6 different brands, which are all sub-brands. Half of them are called Connector. The B and the transport total mobility can't be changed. So we seem to be going through an awful lot of angst to get to what should be a simple solution. And I'm concerned that the interviews seem to be, a lot of them have been with staff or with 2 councillors or with PT users. It's like, I'm not convinced this is going to get us anywhere to a solution.
Robbie.
I don't know if we actually want to say it when it's on public. You know, there's a lot of other organisations that spend a lot of money rebranding their business, and now that is coming under real the expense of rebranding it, and them organisations are now struggling to get some funding for doing it. So I think we've actually gone down the wrong way. We actually want the ratepayers will want to see these buses branded nice, but not ridiculous. They want to see a service that they can afford to pay for. But is there any consultation with the people that are the ratepayers that are paying for it? Like, I know the people that you've consulted with the users, but what about what the actual ratepayer wants to pay? Because you're putting out something, that expectation that when this gets to the ratepayers, they'll just blow their lid. And how much?
Yeah, I don't think that's a question for our people online today, but thank you for raising it. I'll go to Gary.
just a question. I think the best thing you could do for public transport would be just be very good at public transport. We've only got 2 degrees of separation, or actually probably less in New Zealand. If there's a good restaurant or a good coffee shop in town, it spreads very quickly and people go there. If your buses were that good, why aren't people saying so? Why is that osmosis through the community not working to say, this is so good, you really got to join me on the bus?
Question.
All right. I've got Noel, Jen, and then I've got some thoughts.
The question.
What's a question, please? Can I? Why is it not working that people are saying, this is so good, you got to join me on the bus?
Is it part of the brand?
I don't know.
Is that a
Okay.
question? Is that a
So-
question for us?
Yeah. Who are you directing your question to?
Well, whoever wants to answer it, works for a coffee shop or a restaurant. If it's good, you go on it. Why do we need a brand? Why aren't the people who love public transport spreading the good news and other people joining them? Why is the simple fact of osmosis not working?
Because you've got osmosis in the other direction as well. You've got people saying, this perception that it is dangerous, that it's unsafe, that it doesn't work very well. And that perception is coming from people that do not use it. So that's why we're saying, why don't we create a brand that is incredibly easy to use, that is incredibly recognizable and intuitive? And that way we know that once people start using it, they will enjoy it. But at the moment, it's not the easy option for a lot of people.
The other trouble with, I guess osmosis or word of mouth is that for a bus transport system, if you can't see it in the world, you can't find it, you can't use it. And so what we found is one of the biggest problems is visibility of the brand and of the transport system itself. Finding a bus stop quite literally is very difficult to do because it isn't signposted and it isn't branded properly. And then when you do find it, the uniformity of clarity of information and uniformity of the buses, the bus types, which bus am I on, the color system is incredibly hard to understand and therefore, again, really hard to use.
And you've got, generally speaking, an incredible lack of awareness about the system in itself. Out of all the people we spoke to, customers, one person knew about Flex. And as soon as they told the other members of the group about it, people were so excited and passionate and wanted to use it. But generally speaking, people do not know what the buses are. They do not know what the names are. They rely on a color, generally speaking, the purple one, which they would call it, which again leads the way to another issue. Because it is purple, if a replacement bus comes, they refuse to engage with the name of that bus. That even if the driver says, this is the replacement bus here, they will not do it because they have completely relied on the color purple. They do not even know the name. If you have one brand, one cohesive brand that is recognizable, distinctive, that encourages people, like you said, in Australia and Sydney, it forces you to look at the route number. That makes it a lot easier. That already overcomes a huge amount of barriers. And a perfect example, which we keep returning to, is Transport for London or London buses. One of the busiest transport systems of the world. They are all red. They are identical. They have a different route number and a different route name. And it is the easiest, most intuitive experience in the world.
And so I guess, just to reassure, the first tenet of our design process is absolutely simplicity, to find information and to be tactical and strategic about our approach. Nothing fancy.
Yeah.
We just want to get it right.
And importantly, the words we use there are internal. They inform the design of the business. Those aren't customer facing words. So when we talk about tagsline on buses, that is not the language we've used today. That is to lead the strategy, the internal strategy, and therefore the design. It's not the output.
Cool, thank you. No, I will come to Jen first
Right.
because you've already had a go, and then I'll come back to you.
All right, I didn't get the chance to ask a second question, but I will.
You will. Look, and I'll keep it brief. I was in the other room online, sorry. So I can see a lot in what you said earlier on, that you do have a good understanding by talking to people about some of the barriers, that's for sure. And what you're mentioning from other places in the world that obviously have great systems. I'm glad you're bringing that to this. Obviously, the presentation itself was, because I think I was sitting here, and I think a lot of others might have been, to think that we're going to receive the full output today. And somehow I wasn't prepared to just see half of the process. And that's obviously a process that you guys go through that. Yes, like Warren said, we don't really usually see that part. And so hence it's kind of flopped a bit with us. But I think from what I've heard from the conversation, it's been quite good. And obviously, having been here the previous training, the argument that was made for the rebranding absolutely stacked up, and we are now in the process of doing it, and it needed a refresh, and I'm glad that it is going to happen. I do look forward to what it is actually in the end going to be. But yes, simple and straightforward would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what this region needs, on top of the strengths it does already have, like great
Yeah.
brand recognition for Tahuia, for example. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thanks, Jen. Noel.
Yeah, just to focus on the presentation with the focus on the Waikato River. Early Maori and early settlers used the Waikato and Waipa and many other rivers in New Zealand for transport. We now have roads, we now have bridges, but bridges are the barrier in Hamilton and throughout the region to transport. And to focus on the river, it is actually a barrier to transport solutions in this region. If we're building a new bridge in the southern part of Hamilton, we haven't got the population there, but it's a wonderful bridge for the future and a transport solution, because it's already got T2 on it without any people there. But what we to actually use the focus on the river, it's also got the counter there. So can you just think about that when you're going forward? Whilst it might be something to focus on, it's also a barrier.
It's not focusing on the river itself, it's focusing on movement and the water itself. It's like a metaphor, would be a better way to explain it. We're inspired by the fluidity, the ease of use of the river, the power of the river, the way the river has connected people, the way the river has created opportunity. It's not calling ourselves the Waikato River by any means. It's using that as a metaphor for how we want the brand to realise. But
I appreciate that when it comes, but when we come down to what's going to go on the back of the bus, you know, we don't want to have to explain to people how we got there. You know, what is the impact statement, or do we need it at all? That's what I want you to answer, please. And thank you for your work today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Noel. Yeah, just to I've got a few thoughts as well. Part of the confusion that I've found with public is the whole Busset brand and people not knowing who to contact or who's responsible for the buses. Is it HCC? Is it us? Etc. So the Busset brand, to me, doesn't do a lot, and I wouldn't be sad to see that go. Just coming to Gary, your points around safety. I know. As a sometime user of buses, you know, covering up the bus windows with, say, advertising or different branding. You know, you want to be able to see out the window and people see in for it to be safe as well. So, yeah, not keen for too much advertising all over the windows. Say that for the back of the buses, which I believe is doing really well with revenue from the bus back advertising, which is fantastic. My children do use the bus, and part of their frustration, I suppose, is, you know, if you're running for the bus and the bus goes past you and you don't know whether to run faster or not run, there's no numbers at the back of the buses as well to know if you know how long you need to wait for the next one. So that is a practical consideration as well. But I'm hearing from the room as well that, yeah, we agree with what you're saying about simple. I think London's a great example of what we need here. And just looking at the organisation of where we might be heading with public transport in the region as well. Waikato Transport, you know, could, you know, something along those lines. Not that we're coming to solutions today, but yeah, that sort of branding rather than Busset per se.
Yeah, absolutely.
It could be where we need to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but thank you for your time, and I'll hand it back to Sandra just to finish up and next steps.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the presentation and thanks for your valuable feedback. I guess if it wasn't clear from the beginning that we're not coming here for the solution, we'll take that as a note for us to make sure that next time we engage, it is clear what we're here for. But we do hope that we have sort of set the scene on how brand, for us, where it sits in the overall passenger experience strategy and how we believe that can influence the future growth of patronage and more revenue ultimately collected on the network to offset some of the operational costs. Where next, we're working hard on the new brand architecture, and we will be engaging again on some views with different stakeholder groups and workshopping through what those options are and how we want to see the network being presented, not just the overarching name, but there's been a mention here today on how it will appear on the bus stops, how will the numbering on the buses be easy and visible, and all of those practical things that we currently do not have. Yeah, with that, I'd like to just wrap it up and yeah, please take the report as read.
Thank you, Sandra.
Thank
Right. Yeah, thank you, Jane, Heath and Emma. Appreciate your time and looking forward to when you next come back to us. Awesome. Do I have a mover to receive the report? Thanks, Jen. Seconder, thanks, Keith. All those in favour? Against? Carried. All right, on to the last item, and I will just hand over to Phil. In the interest of time, he just outlined something.
So yeah, the operations report is in a format that's consistent with what was presented to Regional Transport Committee and Regional Public Transport Subcommittee in the last triennium. It is intended to provide a retrospective insight to you on performance, both in the immediate 3 months, but also over a longer period of time. In advance of the meeting today, we've had questions from somebody around the Northern Connector, and there was a question posed in the strategic direction session last week, I think, around the journey that has been made to double public transport patronage based on 2018 numbers. My thought would be today we can provide that information to you all by email after the meeting, but equally if you wanted to talk about that now, we can. Otherwise, the report is there as read, really, more than for the need for us to take you through it in any detail. So in your hands as to what you want to do with this report today.
Thanks, Phil. Yeah, Jen.
I'm happy to receive some stuff by email, but my feedback just now, I've seen this operations report in the subcommittee over the past 3 years. I wonder, there was something in the S17A report as well about a dashboard sharing performance. And I think that's something we could look at in the future. You know, because there is that times of the day where there are empty buses in Hamilton, that kind of thing. But I think we could be a lot more transparent in how we share our data. Sorry, it's transparent because it's in these reports, but who actually opens these PDFs on our website? There could be a way of sharing that on our website or on the Waikato Transport website or on something else where everybody, including the TAs, councillors and others can see it as well. Just an overall comment as opposed to the patronage stuff, but it's good patronage data in the report as well. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Jen, for those suggestions. I know Phil is furiously typing. Gary.
Just within the patronage numbers, are you able to break out school children users from other users so we can see that? Because it'd been interesting to see where the numbers are tracking. You know, if you talk about a dashboard as well, you know, so when we see the overall numbers, see how much there is school and how much is, let's say, the rest of public transport.
Yeah, school holidays could be a good time to look as well. Did you want to answer now or?
Yes, I think in the dashboard, in terms of the patronage update, we actually include the breakdown of different ticket types. So within that sort of page, you will see the breakdown of adult users versus students versus senior. So there's actually a breakdown in percentage. But we can kind of drill down to further details if need be, if you want to look at a particular time, day, or at the stage it's being presented as the aggregate over the 3-month period. So page 254.
254, Gary.
Awesome. Did you want to follow that up afterwards off online or?
Did see some numbers coming through and I highlighted, just haven't got them in front of me, but you had youth and students and things like that, but it didn't really break out. So I had a guess around who they were, but it was just probably highlighted better. So and maybe even if it's possible, I don't know how much if I'm asking too much, but from primary, secondary through to university, it'd be really interesting to see where the demographics or who's using what.
Do you want me to comment on that?
Okay, go Melissa.
Kia ora, councillors. For those of you who may not know me, I'm Melissa. I've network monitoring analyst, and I prepared the report in front of you today. We do have that information on the ticket breakdown for each route. Obviously, we have quite a lot of data, so in the interest of not overwhelming you every quarter with pages and pages and pages of information, that was omitted from this report. If that's something that you would be interested in seeing moving forward, that can be incorporated. In terms of the distinction between primary school children, intermediate, high school, that is a little bit more challenging because our ticket types only distinguish up to 15 years old, so younger than 15 or older than 15. But certainly we can get school children overall and university if that's something that you're interested in. That can be included in the next report.
Oh, okay. I do have a speaking order. Yep.
Because I've got the page now. Because it was really interesting to see youth is up 447%, and then tertiary up 36%. That's that massive percentages increases. So, really what I'm trying to work out within that, where I want to get to is public transport, I suppose, for work and for commuter that we talk about. Is that actually dropping off, and are we just becoming a school bus service?
It makes it certainly easier to get around when school kids are on the bus within Hamilton. So do we want the opposite?
Not arguing the point, but then I'm going to go to the ministry with a big argument, aren't I, and say I'm just a school bus run.
Interesting. Warren.
Yeah, thanks. And I think, Gary, one of the things you'll note, it is in that pack, but I think the figures for around kids were reported differently in previous years. So I think that they actually talk about that difference in balance. Mine's around the private share, and just looking at the figure there and that. Two quick questions. Is the Te Huia CAF revenue in there? And also the bus back signage. Is that in that private share as well? Those figures.
It's included in the private share calculation.
Yeah, an idea of how much of each? Oh, that can come back to us. That's right. Yep. Yeah. Thank you. I'm just trying to get clarity around what is in those figures. Thank you.
Thanks, Warren. Ben.
Yeah, it's to Phil. Just a question, seeing we're in the operations report, I didn't want to raise it just before. What have we disclosed the cost of the branding exercise? What was the contract? Did we sort of figure that was public or private?
You approved the budget for it within the annual plan.
Which I think was 200K, was it?
Over 2 years, and it has NZTA subsidy. I don't know if it is here.
Yeah, over 2 years. Now we're in first stage of creating a new brand, and I believe the council's part of it was for both years 370,000.
Okay, that's fine. And does that include the actual cost of the physical upgrade itself, i.e. painting the buses or whatever?
So
Separate again, is it?
so
And have you come back to us with a figure on that yet?
yeah, so this, the reason why we're doing this now is so that it can be part of the new contract rollout. So when the new buses come with the new contracts, they will be with the new look. Otherwise, we would have had to budget separately to repaint all of the fleet.
Yeah, so that the bus operators in 2028 will need to repaint their buses if they, and the new ones turn up.
When the new ones turn up, yeah.
You'll have to do the whole lot.
So we're going to have multicolored buses for many years unless Auckland Transport takes us over. That's, can we just clarify that, Phil?
Yeah.
So as of which date will the rebranded, repainted buses be
You won't
around?
be here, Ben, so it won't matter.
Well, we've described to you that there are two batches of contracts launching,
Yes.
end of 2027 and mid 2028. Buses would be branded with the new brand from those dates.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And very last question, Chris.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Phil, I apologise. I promised you a schedule of things which I'd sat down and prepared, and then I did look for it and I couldn't find it, but I will get there. What I'd like to see, and you probably, I think you said you did had it somewhere, and that's basically a contribution report by route, by time, giving us both the contribution and the fare recovery. Now, is that information readily available? Is it easy enough to access?
Melissa.
Kia ora, Chris. Sorry, sitting behind you. That can be pulled out with some effort. So
How much effort? I don't want to waste your time. To me, that's how I measure the efficiency of the routes and the usage of them.
a few hours.
Is it readily available? Or can you put in a spreadsheet and just sort it in a spreadsheet? Or
Yeah, I would just need to, pull the data out of our ticketing machines and then
just want to know which of our routes are paying the bills and which ones aren't. Simple, because that way you can make informed decisions as to, if you're talking to the city council, these ones are not paying their way. And why are we continuing with them? That's what I want to know.
All right. Thank you for the interest, everyone, and thank you for your time today. And a huge thank you to staff for the very first Regional Council Transport Committee. We look forward to the next one. Thank you. We will need to move the report. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Chris Hughes. Do I have a seconder? Thanks, Keith. All those in favour? Against? Carried. All right, we will now move to the karakia to close us off. Thank you, Phil.
Chair, unahia mai te uru tapanui, kia watia, kia mama, te nākau, te tinana, te hininaro, i te arotakutu koira e rongo e whakairea ake ki runga kia tina, humie, huie, tai kie.
Thank you, everyone. Meeting closed.